comfortable, close your eyes and let my voice guide you into a world of peaceful dreams. But along the banks, where the grass grows thick and the earth holds the day's memories, the snow begins to accumulate. Not much at first, just a dusting, a suggestion of the transformation to come. The old willow tree that droops its branches into the stream seems to catch the flakes deliberately, as if it's been waiting all year for this moment. The snow settles onto its bare branches, outlining each twig in delicate white, creating patterns that no artist could improve upon. The tree's reflection in the dark water below becomes something magical, a mirror image crowned with snow, rippling gently with the stream's movement. A barn owl calls from somewhere in the distance, its voice carrying easily through the still air. The sound is lonely, but not sad, more like a greeting to the changing season, an acknowledgement that winter has finally arrived in this peaceful valley. The owl's call seems to encourage the snow, and the flakes respond by falling just a little more thickly, still gentle, but now with purpose. In the small cottage at the village's edge, Anna tends her evening fire, adding one more log to ensure the warmth will last through the night. She's noticed the snow, of course. How could she not? It shows clearly against her dark windows, and the quality of the silence outside has changed in that unmistakable way that snow brings. She moves to her kitchen window and looks out at her garden, where the last of the winter vegetables still grow in neat rows. The snow is beginning to dust the cabbage leaves and cover the paths between the planted beds. Tomorrow, she'll need to harvest what she can before the snow gets too deep. But tonight, she can simply watch as her familiar garden transforms into something new. The old scarecrow that has watched over her vegetables all season now wears a cap of snow, giving him a dignity he's lacked since the crows discovered he was harmless. Anna puts the kettle on for tea, more for the ritual than from thirst. The sound of the water beginning to warm mingles with the deeper silence outside, and she finds herself moving more slowly, more deliberately. This is snow's first gift, the way it encourages stillness, contemplation, a natural slowing down that fights against the hurried pace of ordinary days. Back in the village center, the snow has begun to dust the cobblestones, creating a thin, white veil over the familiar patterns of daily life. The stones still hold enough warmth from the day that the snow melts when it first lands. But gradually, as the evening deepens and the stones cool, a light covering begins to form. It's patchy at first, thicker in the shadows where the sun never quite reaches, thinner in the open spaces, but persistent, like a gentle insistence that change has come. The old fountain in the square, dry now for the winter months, becomes a bowl for collecting snow. The carved stone figures that decorate its rim, simple birds and flowers worn smooth by decades of weather, take on new character as snow begins to outline their familiar forms. What was merely decorative in the warm months becomes almost magical in the transforming light of the first snow. Even the sounds of the village are different now. Footsteps would sound softer if there were any feet walking these streets. But the evening has drawn everyone inside to their warm homes and glowing windows. Instead, there's only the almost sound of falling snow, that peculiar quiet rustle that you feel more than hear, the whisper of countless tiny impacts with earth and stone and leaf. The village dogs seem to sense the change too. From various homes comes the occasional soft woof of a dog who has looked outside and seen something worth commenting on, though not worth making a fuss over. These are country dogs who have seen snow before, but they still feel compelled to acknowledge its arrival with a quiet greeting, a recognition that the seasons have turned once more. The snow continues to fall with that steady, unhurried consistency that speaks of a storm with staying power. Not fierce or dramatic, but thorough in its intentions. Each flake seems to know exactly where it belongs, settling into place with the certainty of puzzle pieces finding their proper position. The world is being rewritten, one snowflake at a time, and there's no rushing this particular author. From the small schoolhouse at the top of the village's single hill, the view encompasses the entire settlement and the valley beyond. If anyone were standing at those windows now, they would see the snow's progress, like a slow motion dance, the way it moves through the village streets, across the small fields and pastures, over the stream, and up the gentle slopes of the surrounding hills. They would see how it transforms not through force, but through accumulation, through the patient addition of tiny individual acts of beauty. The air itself seems to thicken with snow now, each breath carrying the clean, mineral scent that comes only with winter's precipitation. It's a smell that speaks to something ancient in human memory, the need for shelter, for warmth, for the simple comforts that make winter not just survivable, but beautiful. The cold is real, but not harsh, more like a gentle reminder to appreciate the warm spaces we create for ourselves. Inside the various homes, people are settling into their evening routines with the extra contentment that comes from being warm and dry, while something lovely and wild happens outside. They move to their windows periodically, drawn by the ancient fascination of watching the world change. Children press their noses to the glass, their breath fogging the panes as they wonder if there will be enough snow for sledding by morning. The village's single street lamp, an old-fashioned thing with a warm yellow bulb, creates a perfect circle of illuminated snow beneath its glow. Here, the falling flakes become visible in their full glory, each one caught for a moment in the light, before disappearing into the growing white carpet below. It's like nature's own snow globe, endlessly entertaining, endlessly peaceful. As full darkness settles over the valley, the snow seems to glow with its own soft light. This is one of winter's most mysterious gifts, the way snow brightens even the darkest night, reflecting and amplifying whatever light it can find, until the world seems lit from within. The village takes on an almost ethereal quality, its familiar shapes softened and gentled by the accumulating snow. And still the flakes continue to fall, patient and persistent, each one a small miracle of crystalline architecture that will soon lose its individual identity in service to something larger and more beautiful. This is the beginning of the great quieting, the annual ritual that will wrap this village in stillness and transform it into a place where time moves differently, where the ordinary world becomes a realm of wonder. The night is young, and the snow has much work to do. As the snow continues its patient work above, something draws you from the warmth of observation into the gentle pull of movement. Your feet, almost without conscious decision, carry you toward the village streets that wind like sleeping rivers between the houses. The transition from stillness to motion feels as natural as breathing. Each step a quiet note in the evening's soft symphony. The cobblestones beneath your feet have been transformed into something entirely new. Where this morning they were hard and familiar, now they wear thick socks of snow that compress with the most satisfying whisper under your weight. Each footstep creates its own small geography. The way your foot sinks just slightly, the way the snow accepts the impression and holds it, creating a temporary record of your passage through this transformed world. The street that leads toward the village center curves gently between houses that seem to have grown taller and more mysterious in their white coatings. Roof lines that were sharp this morning now flow like the smooth backs of sleeping animals. Chimneys poke through their snowy blankets, sending thin ribbons of smoke into the falling flakes, creating small updrafts where the snow dances and swirls before settling back into its steady downward rhythm. The windows you pass tell quiet stories with their warm rectangles of light. In one, you glimpse the flutter of curtains as someone moves past. In another, the steady glow suggests a reading lamp, perhaps illuminating pages being turned by hands, wrapped around a warm cup. These aren't intrusions into privacy, but gentle reminders that this village continues to live and breathe even as it settles into snow-muffled quietude. The street lamps, old-fashioned iron posts that have stood sentinel here for decades, now serve as gathering points for the falling snow. Each light creates its own small weather system, illuminating the flakes as they spiral through the air like tiny aerial dancers. The light catches each flake for just a moment, revealing its delicate structure before it tumbles back into darkness and joins its companions on the steadily rising white carpet below. Your breath forms small clouds that dissipate quickly in the cold air, each exhalation a visible reminder of your presence in this increasingly pristine world. The temperature has that particular quality that comes with steady snowfall, not the bitter bite of a clear winter night, but something softer, as if the falling snow brings with it a kind of atmospheric cushioning that gentles even the cold. As you move deeper into the village streets, the snow begins to muffle sound in ways that feel almost magical. Your footsteps, which would normally echo off the stone and brick surfaces, now create barely a whisper. The usual small sounds of evening, the distant hum of heating systems, the occasional car door, the rustle of evergreen branches, all seem to occur behind layers of cotton batting, present but softened, immediate but somehow distant. The falling snow itself adds its own subtle percussion to the evening. If you pause and listen carefully, you can almost hear it. Not the individual flakes, which are too light and small to create sound, but the collective whisper of millions of crystals settling onto surfaces. accumulating on fence posts, gathering in the corners where buildings meet the street, piling in the spaces between parked cars that are slowly transforming into soft white sculptures. A cat appears from beneath a parked car, its dark fur providing a striking contrast to all this white. It picks its way delicately across the snow-covered street, lifting each paw with a careful precision cats reserve for surfaces they find questionable. Its whiskers twitch at the falling flakes, and for a moment it pauses to examine this strange phenomenon before continuing on its mysterious feline errand, disappearing around a corner with the fluid grace that seems especially pronounced against the soft geometry of this snow-transformed landscape. The village's small shops line this particular street, their darkened windows reflecting the street lamps and creating multiple images of the falling snow. The bakery's window still holds the ghost scent of the day's bread, though now it mingles with the clean, cold smell of the snow. The bookshop's display window shows stacks of volumes that seem even more inviting when viewed through the veil of falling flakes, as if the snow has transformed them into promises of stories, perfect for nights exactly like this one. You pass a small cafe whose owner has forgotten to turn off the outside lights, and they illuminate a cluster of small tables and chairs that are accumulating snow in the most charming ways. Each chair back holds a growing ridge of white, and the table surfaces are becoming perfect circles of pristine snow, punctuated by the dark dots of chair legs poking through. It's as if someone has set up an outdoor dining area for snow sprites, complete with place settings made of winter weather. The fountain in the small square ahead has been transformed into something from a fairy tale. The bronze figure at its center, a young woman pouring water from an urn, now wears a crown and shawl of snow that makes her seem less like a statue and more like a benevolent winter spirit watching over the village. The water in the fountain's basin steams slightly in the cold air, creating small wisps of vapor that rise and mingle with the falling snow before vanishing into the gray-white sky. Around the fountain, the village's small Christmas market stalls stand empty but not abandoned. Their wooden frames support growing accumulations of snow that turn each booth into a small architectural marvel. The striped awnings sag pleasantly under their white burden, creating curves and swoops that catch and hold even more snow, building layer upon layer in patterns that seem both random and perfectly designed. Here, where during the day voices would mingle with the sounds of commerce and conversation, now there is only the continued whisper of falling snow and the soft compression of your footsteps as you circle the fountain. The cobblestones around its perimeter are becoming increasingly abstract, their individual shapes disappearing beneath the accumulating white until they exist more as gentle undulations than distinct stones. A church bell towers somewhere behind the falling curtain of snow, its bronze voice rolling across the village in measured tones that seem deeper and more resonant in this muffled atmosphere. The sound doesn't cut through the night so much as flow through it, each toll spreading outward in waves that seem to gather the snowflakes in their passage, creating brief moments where the flakes appear to pulse and swirl in response to the reverberations. The side streets that branch off from the square beckon with their own quiet mysteries. Each one disappears into the falling snow after just a few dozen meters, creating the impression that the village extends infinitely in all directions, while simultaneously feeling intimate and enclosed. It's a peculiar magic that heavy snowfall creates, this sense of being in a vast world that has somehow become perfectly sized for quiet contemplation. You choose one of these side streets, almost at random, drawn perhaps by the particular way the snow has gathered around a row of mailboxes, or by the warm light spilling from a window, or simply by the natural wandering spirit that evening snow seems to encourage. This street is narrower, more residential, lined with houses that seem to lean slightly toward each other as if sharing secrets under their snow-covered eaves. Each house you pass contributes its own small details to the evening's composition. Here, someone has left a pair of boots on their front step, now crowned with small mountains of snow. There, wind chimes hang motionless in the still air, their metal tubes outlined in white, waiting for a breeze that may not come until morning. A bicycle leans against a fence, its form becoming increasingly abstract as the snow transforms it from a machine into a sculpture. The snow continues to fall with that same patient persistence, never hurrying, never pausing, creating the sense that this has been happening forever and will continue long after you've returned to warmth and shelter. Your own passage through these streets feels both purposeful and aimless. You're moving through the village, yes, but you're also allowing the village to move through you. Each snow-laden sight and muffled sound becoming part of an experience that exists outside ordinary time. And still the snow falls, transforming not just the village, but your relationship with it, turning familiar streets into pathways through a world that feels both utterly real and completely enchanted. As your meandering path carries you deeper into the village's snow-muffled heart, the first thing that draws your attention isn't a sound or a movement, but rather the gradual emergence of something that seems to pulse gently against the white-gray evening air. Windows, cottage windows, glowing with the kind of warm amber light that speaks of fires carefully tended, of lamps lit against the gathering dusk, of homes settling into their evening rhythms while the snow continues its patient work of transformation outside. You pause here, letting your feet sink a little deeper into the snow, and notice how each window tells its own quiet story. In the cottage nearest to you, a single large window reveals the soft dance of firelight across interior walls, not the harsh flicker of flame, but the gentler, more diffuse glow that suggests embers settling into themselves, radiating steady comfort. The light doesn't spill dramatically into the snowy street. Instead, it seems to rest contentedly within its glass boundaries, as if the window itself were a lantern designed to hold warmth rather than broadcast it. Moving a few steps closer, you become aware of how the falling snow interacts with this illumination in ways that daylight never quite allows. Each snowflake that drifts past the window catches a tiny fragment of that amber glow, holding it for just an instant before continuing its downward journey. It's as if the light itself is being gently sifted through the air, distributed in countless minute portions that appear and disappear too quickly for your eyes to fully follow. It somehow register in your awareness as an overall sense of luminous motion. The cottage itself seems to exhale contentment. You can sense, though you cannot hear, the presence of settled life within. Perhaps someone is reading near that fire, or perhaps they're simply sitting, watching their own view of the snowfall from the warmth of their interior world. There's something profoundly restful about this awareness of parallel evening experiences. You in the snow, someone else by their fireside. Both you participants in the same gentle evening, the same encompassing quiet. As you continue along the snow-softened lane, more windows reveal themselves, each one a variation on the theme of warm light, held within walls while the winter world unfolds outside. A smaller cottage shows 2 windows side by side, and you notice how the light in one has a slightly different quality than the other. Perhaps one room holds a wood fire while the other glows with oil lamp light. The subtle distinction creates a sense of depth, of rooms extending back into the cottage like chambers of warmth, each with its own purpose and character. In another window, higher up what must be a second story, the light seems more golden, less amber. This suggests candlelight, maybe several candles grouped together, creating that particular honey-colored illumination that speaks of evening activities. Letter writing, perhaps, or the kind of careful handwork that benefits from a gentle, focused light. You find yourself imagining the view from that upstairs window, looking down at the snow-covered village, at your own figure, moving slowly through the transformed streets. The snow underfoot has developed a particular texture now, neither the loose powder of fresh fall nor the packed firmness of well-traveled paths, but something in between, a surface that yields just enough to remind you of its presence, while still supporting your unhurried progress. Each step creates the faintest whisper of sound, the kind of barely there noise that somehow enhances rather than breaks the surrounding silence. It's the auditory equivalent of the visual softness that the snow brings to everything else. Edges rounded, sharp contrasts mellowed, the entire world rendered in gentler terms. The scent in the air has shifted subtly as you've moved deeper among the cottages, along with the clean, almost metallic smell of falling snow. You now catch occasional traces of wood smoke, not the acrid smoke of green wood or poorly managed fires, but of the sweet, almost resinous fragrance of seasoned timber burning cleanly in well-designed hearths. It's a scent that seems to settle around you like an additional layer of warmth, even though the air itself remains crisp against your face and hands. One cottage draws your attention particularly, not because its windows are brighter than the others, but because of the way its light seems to pool differently against the snow that has accumulated on its window ledges. Here, the snow has built up in small, rounded drifts along the bottom edge of each window, creating natural barriers between the interior warmth and the exterior cold. Yet somehow the light seems to suffuse even these small snow barriers, giving them a subtle luminosity as if they were carved from some material that could hold and gently release illumination. The effect is almost magical, though entirely natural, a simple consequence of light meeting snow at just the right angle, with just the right accumulation and density. But standing here in the quiet street, watching this gentle interplay between the warmth of human habitation and the patient artistry of the snowfall, you feel yourself settling into a deeper appreciation for the way ordinary elements can combine to create moments of unexpected beauty. Above the cottages, the snow continues its descent from a sky that has deepened from pale gray to something approaching charcoal, though the overall scene somehow seems brighter now than it did earlier. This is the peculiar gift of snow at dusk, the way it catches and holds what light remains, redistributing it softly throughout the landscape, so that even as true darkness approaches, the world maintains a gentle luminosity that makes navigation possible and keeps the evening from feeling closed or oppressive. You realize that you've been walking for some time now without any real destination in mind, and yet your path feels entirely appropriate, entirely right. The village is revealing itself to you at exactly the pace that allows for full appreciation. Window by window, cottage by cottage, each one contributing to a growing sense of place that feels both discovered and remembered, both new and familiar. In the distance, though distance itself seems a fluid concept in this snow-softened world, you glimpse what appears to be a slightly larger house, its windows arranged in a pattern that suggests rooms of different sizes and purposes. From here, the light from those windows creates a constellation of warm points against the darkening air, a cluster of illumination that promises its own discoveries as your unhurried journey continues to unfold. But for now, you're content to stand where you are, to let your breathing settle into the rhythm of the falling snow, to feel the way this moment holds everything it needs, the gentle weight of snowflakes landing on your shoulders and hair, the whisper of your own movement through the accumulated snow, the distant comfort of lights in windows, the awareness that this village, this evening, this particular configuration of snow and light and quiet will never exist in quite this way again, and yet somehow feels as enduring as the hills that cradle this small community in their protective embrace. The snow continues to fall, each flake a small messenger, carrying the promise that this transformation is far from complete, that the evening holds more discoveries, more moments of quiet revelation, more opportunities to sink deeper into the profound peace that emerges when human warmth and winter's artistry combine to create something that exists nowhere else but here, now in this gentle dance between shelter and openness, between the security of lighted windows and the adventure of snow-muffled streets that lead toward whatever waits beyond the next turn, the next cottage, the next opportunity for wonder. And as these snow-dusted pathways continue their quiet invitation deeper into the village heart, the ancient stone bell tower begins to emerge from behind a cluster of frost-touched elm trees, its weathered spire reaching upward through the falling snow like a patient finger. has stood here for centuries, its limestone walls bearing the gentle scars of countless winters, each season adding another layer to its story of endurance and grace. The building seems to grow from the snowy ground itself, as if winter has been sculpting it for months, rounding its corners with accumulated drifts, softening its Gothic angles until the structure appears less like architecture and more like a natural formation discovered beneath the snow. Icicles hang from the carved stone gutters in graduated lengths, creating a delicate fringe that catches and scatters the amber light spilling from the tall, narrow windows. Each piece of ice is unique, shaped by the particular wind patterns and temperature fluctuations of this exact spot. Some thick as a person's arm, others thin as pencils. All of them perfectly clear and shot through with the warm glow from within. The heavy wooden doors, darkened by age and weather to the color of strong coffee, bare iron hinges that have turned green with patina over the decades. Snow has gathered in the deep grooves carved into the wood, outlining each panel and decorative element with pristine white lines that make the ancient craftsmanship appear newly etched. The brass door handles, worn smooth by countless hands, gleam dully in the reflected light, and you can almost feel their cold weight in your palm, solid and reassuring beneath your mittened fingers. Walking closer across the snow-muffled churchyard, each footstep sinking slightly into the powder with that distinctive, soft crunch that seems to echo for just a moment before being absorbed entirely by the surrounding stillness. You notice how the building's presence changes the very quality of silence around it. Here the quiet feels deeper, more intentional, as if the stone walls have been collecting peaceful moments for generations and now radiate that accumulated serenity back into the winter night. The stained glass windows glow like jewels set into the pale stone, each one telling its story in rich blues and deep crimsons, golden yellows, and forest greens that seem even more vivid against the monochrome landscape surrounding them. The snow falling past these illuminated panels catches brief touches of color, a flake-tinted rose as it drifts past the window depicting spring flowers, another touched with sapphire as it passes the panel showing summer skies. These tiny moments of colored snow disappear almost before they can be fully perceived, like secrets shared and immediately kept. From inside comes the faintest sound of an organ, not a formal service or concert, but someone practicing late into the evening, the notes floating through the stone walls and wooden doors like smoke through fabric. The melody is simple, contemplative, each chord allowed to resonate fully before the next one joins it, creating harmonies that seem to hang in the cold air before dissolving into the general hush. Sometimes the music pauses for long minutes, and in those gaps you can imagine the organist sitting quietly, hands resting on the keys, perhaps watching the snow through one of those glowing windows, gathering inspiration from the same peaceful scene that surrounds you now. The churchyard itself tells stories written in snow-covered stone. Ancient headstones lean at gentle angles, their inscriptions hidden beneath white caps that transform each memorial into abstract sculpture. The old stone walls that border the cemetery are topped with snow that is built up in soft, rounded mounds, creating an undulating white fence that seems to flow like a frozen river around the sacred ground. Bare tree branches arch overhead, their twigs weighted with snow until they form natural cathedral arches, as if the winter itself is building a second church of ice and branches above the stone, one below. Standing here in this consecrated quiet, you can feel how the building anchors this entire landscape, how its presence gives meaning to the paths that lead here, the homes that face toward it, the way the village has grown up around this central point of gathering and reflection. The warmth that glows from its windows isn't just physical heat, but something deeper, the warmth of community, of shared purpose, of a place where people have come for generations to mark their most important moments and find comfort in times of need. The snow continues to fall with that infinite patience that only snow possesses, each flake adding its tiny contribution to the accumulating beauty. On the church roof, the white covering has grown thick enough to soften every line and angle, transforming the practical geometry of slate and timber into something more organic, more mysterious. Snow slides occasionally from the steeper sections in small avalanches that thump softly into the drift below, but mostly it simply accumulates in perfect stillness, building layer upon microscopic layer like a slow manuscript being written by the sky itself. The bell tower rises through this falling snow like a lighthouse through fog, its uppermost reaches disappearing into the low-hanging clouds that brush the treetops. You know there are bells up there, bronze voices that have called people to worship for centuries. But tonight, they rest in perfect silence, allowing the snow to pile on their curved shoulders without disturbance. Even the clock face, barely visible through the veiling snow, seems to tick more slowly here, as if time itself has been touched by the profound patience of this winter evening. Moving closer to one of the illuminated windows, the warmth radiating through the glass becomes palpable, creating a small zone where the falling snow melts just slightly faster, where the air holds just a hint more moisture, where your breath doesn't quite form such distinct clouds. The contrast is gentle but noticeable, the difference between the outer cold and this suggestion of interior warmth, creating a subtle boundary that you can physically feel as you move through it, like walking through layers of invisible fabric hung in the air. Through the clear sections of the stained glass, glimpses of the interior reveal themselves. The warm honey color of wooden pews worn smooth by use. The gentle arch of stone pillars that seem to grow from the floor like ancient trees. The soft gleam of brass fixtures that reflect the warm electric lights that have replaced the candles of earlier centuries but still cast the same kind of comforting glow. The organist remains invisible from this angle, but the music continues its gentle exploration. Sometimes familiar hymns played so slowly and thoughtfully that they become pure meditation. Sometimes improvised melodies that seem to echo the rhythm of falling snow. The air here carries scents that belong specifically to this place. The clean smell of snow and stone. Yes, but underneath that, the faint fragrance of wood polish and old books. The metallic the subtle sweetness of the pine boughs that someone has arranged near the entrance for the season. These scents blend and separate like the notes of the organ music, sometimes distinct, sometimes combining into something entirely new that exists nowhere else. But in this exact spot on this exact evening, your footsteps around the building's perimeter leave a trail in the fresh snow, but already new flakes are beginning to soften those impressions, gradually returning the surface to its unmarked perfection. This process of marking and erasing, of temporary impression and gentle restoration, seems to capture something essential about this place, how it holds space for human presence while maintaining its own eternal rhythm, how it welcomes visitors while preserving the deep quiet that makes such welcome meaningful. Standing now at the building's eastern end, where the altar window glows most brightly, you can see how the light streams out across the snow-covered ground in a long rectangle of gold, creating a carpet of illumination that seems almost solid enough to walk on. Within this lighted area, each falling snowflake becomes visible for its entire descent. Thousands of tiny white sparks falling through the golden air like stars being born and dissolved in the same moment. The music from within shifts to something even more contemplative, chords that seem to emerge from silence and return to silence without any sense of beginning or ending, like breathing made audible, like the sound patience might make if patience could sing. Standing in this glow, surrounded by this music and this snow and this profound sense of shelter and sanctuary, you feel how winter transforms even the most familiar places into something new, something that asks nothing of you except that you notice, that you allow yourself to receive whatever gift this moment has been quietly preparing to offer. This gift, you discover, comes in the form of an invitation to move, to leave the warmth of this glowing sanctuary and step back into the deeper quiet of the village night. The snow continues its patient work, and now you find yourself drawn to become part of that work, to add your own gentle presence to the story the winter is writing across every surface, every pathway, every threshold, between the warmth of human shelter and the vast, accepting silence beyond. You step away from the window's golden rectangle, feeling the cold air touch your face immediately, sharp and clean as spring water. The difference is startling and wonderful, how quickly your skin remembers winter, how readily your body adjusts to this new conversation with the elements. Your breath becomes visible again, small clouds that hang for a moment before dissolving into the larger mystery of the falling snow. And with each exhale, you feel more present, more awake to the particular magic that only exists in moments like these. The first step into the deeper snow is a revelation. Your foot sinks down, through layers of crystalline softness until it finds purchase on the solid ground beneath. And the snow accepts this intrusion with a whispered compression, a gentle settling that speaks of accommodation rather than resistance. The sound is unlike anything else. Not quite a crunch, not quite a sigh, but something entirely its own. Something that seems to contain both the density of winter and the lightness of air, both the weight of your presence and the forgiveness of snow that reshapes itself around every footfall. As you begin to walk, each step becomes a small ceremony. Your feet sink into snow that reaches nearly to your knees. And with every lift and placement, you're creating something that has never existed before. This particular pattern of depressions, this specific rhythm of disturbance and settling, this unique constellation of footprints that traces your path through a landscape transformed. Behind you, the holes you've made in the snow's surface begin to soften immediately, the falling flakes starting their work of restoration, of gradually returning the world to its unmarked perfection. The village around you has become a different place entirely. Buildings that you might pass without notice on an ordinary day have been transformed into sculptures of shadow and suggestion. Their familiar angles softened into curves, their distinct edges blurred into something more like dreams than architecture. Snow has collected in the angles where roof meets wall, creating deep drifts that reshape the very geometry of this place, making doorways into mysterious alcoves, making fences into gentle hills of white that rise and fall with no regard for the rigid lines that lie buried beneath. Moving through this transformed landscape, you begin to understand something about the relationship between movement and stillness, between the temporary marks we make and the patient permanence that erases them. Each footstep you take is both an assertion and a surrender. You are here. You are moving through this space. You are leaving evidence of your passage, and yet the snow continues to fall, continues its work of restoration, promising that by morning, these traces of your journey will be suggestions at best, gentle depressions that tell a story of someone who passed this way when the world was different than it is now. The sound of your walking creates a rhythm that seems to synchronize with something larger than yourself. Step, sink, settle, lift. Step, sink, settle, lift. A percussion that finds its harmony with the whispered conversations of snowflakes touching branches, the distant settling of snow sliding from overburdened pine boughs, the almost inaudible whisper of your own breathing as it mingles with the breathing of the winter night. You're not walking through this landscape so much as participating in it, adding your voice to a symphony that plays in frequencies so quiet they're felt more than heard. As you move deeper into the village's transformed geography, you notice how the snow has created new relationships between things that normally stand apart. That fence that usually divides two properties has disappeared beneath a drift that connects yard to yard, creating an unbroken expanse of white that makes neighbors of spaces that usually maintain their careful boundaries. The path that normally leads directly from house to barn has become a suggestion rather than a certainty, a gentle depression in the snow that invites exploration rather than efficient transit. Your hands, warmed by movement and cold enough to tingle with awareness, occasionally reach out to steady yourself against a fence post or the trunk of a tree, and each contact brings its own small revelation. The wooden post, rough with weathering and darkened by moisture from the snow, feels solid and reassuring under your palm, a reminder of the permanent structures that persist beneath winter's temporary transformations. The bark of an old oak, deeply furrowed and surprisingly warm to the touch, speaks of life continuing its patient work, even in the depth of winter, of root systems and circulation, and the quiet persistence of growth, even when everything above ground suggests sleep. The snow that clings to your clothes, that accumulates on your shoulders and in the creases of your sleeves, begins to create its own small ecosystem of cold and dampness and gradual melting. You can feel it there, this gentle accumulation of winter's attention, and rather than brushing it away, you find yourself simply accepting it as part of the experience, part of the conversation between your warm, moving body and the patient cold that surrounds you. Some of these flakes melt immediately upon contact, becoming tiny droplets that soak gradually through fabric, while others cling and accumulate, building small architectural structures of crystal and air that rise and fall with your breathing. Moving through snow this deep requires a different kind of attention, a different relationship with balance and intention. You can't simply walk as you would on clear ground with that automatic confidence in where your foot will land and how the earth will receive it. Instead, each step becomes a small negotiation with uncertainty, a gentle testing of depth and stability, a willingness to sink and adjust and find your footing in conditions that change with every footfall. This slower pace, this necessary mindfulness, transforms the simple act of walking from transportation into meditation, from getting somewhere into being present with the process of movement itself. The village street, usually a clear line of demarcation between public and private space, has become something more like a river valley, a gentle depression between the higher drifts that have collected against buildings and around obstacles. Following this natural path, you find yourself moving with the landscape rather than through it, allowing the snow's own logic to guide your route, rather than insisting on the geometric certainties that govern this place in other seasons. As you walk, your body begins to generate its own warmth from the effort of moving through deep snow, and this creates a pleasant contrast with the cold air on your face and the gradually accumulating dampness where snow meets clothing. You're warm from the inside out, alive with the heat of movement and attention, while remaining deliciously cool at every point where winter touches you directly. This temperature conversation between your body and the night creates its own kind of awareness, its own heightened sensitivity to the boundary between self and world, between the warmth you carry and the cold that welcomes you. The footprints you're leaving behind tell their own story, and occasionally you pause to look back at the trail you've created, this meandering line of depressions that traces your journey through a landscape that accepts every mark while promising to erase them all. There's something profoundly peaceful about this temporary permanence, this way of moving through the world that allows you to leave evidence of your passage without any expectation that this evidence will persist. By morning, new snow will have softened these edges, filled these depressions, returned this path to unmarked possibility. Each step forward becomes an act of faith. Faith that the ground beneath the snow will support you. Faith that your body knows how to navigate this transformed terrain. Faith that this journey has its own purpose beyond simply getting from one place to another. You're walking through winter like walking through a meditation. Each footfall a moment of presence. Each breath a small celebration of being alive and aware in this particular place at this particular moment when the world has dressed itself in such extraordinary beauty. The night air carries scents that belong entirely to winter. The clean, almost metallic smell of snow, the deeper woody fragrance of pine trees heavy with accumulation, the faint smoke from chimneys that speaks of fires burning in hearths throughout the village. These aromas blend and separate as you move, creating an olfactory landscape as complex and layered as the visual transformation surrounding you. Sometimes a gust of wind brings the scent of snow from distant fields, air that has traveled across miles of white emptiness before finding you here, carrying stories of the storm's journey across the entire countryside. Your walking has found its own rhythm now, a steady cadence that seems to harmonize with your heartbeat, with your breathing, with the gentle whisper of snow continuing to fall around you. This is not the brisk, efficient walking of daytime errands or exercise, but something closer to ceremony, to prayer made physical, to a way of honoring both the beauty of this transformed landscape and your own capacity to move through it with awareness and gratitude. Each step is both purposeful and purposeless, taking you somewhere specific while celebrating the simple miracle of being able to move through space, through time, through this moment that exists nowhere else but here, now, in the midst of falling snow and perfect silence, and the soft conversation your footsteps are making with the listening earth. Your feet carry you naturally toward a sound that has been growing gradually in your awareness. The soft, persistent murmur of moving water that speaks in liquid syllables beneath the snow's hushed blanket. It's a gentle beckoning, this water song, threading through the village like an ancient melody that predates every stone house, every cobbled path, every human story that has ever unfolded here. As you follow this aqueous thread, the ground beneath your feet begins to change subtly. The packed earth and scattered cobblestones give way to something more uneven, more rustic. Larger stones fitted together with the patient precision of hands that worked without hurry, without the anxious rush of modern time. These are stones that have felt centuries of footsteps, stones that remember the weight of horse-drawn carts and the running feet of children and the careful steps of elderly villagers making their way to market or church or simply to visit a neighbor on the other side of the water. The creek reveals itself gradually, like a secret being shared, one whisper at a time. First, there's just the sound, growing clearer, more defined. Then the faint gleam of movement glimpsed between the snow-laden branches of willows that bend protectively over the water's path. Finally, you see it fully, a narrow ribbon of dark water moving steadily between banks softened by snow, the surface broken here and there by small stones that create tiny whirlpools and gentle splashes that add percussion to the water's constant song. The bridge itself emerges from the snowy air like something from a half-remembered dream. It's built of the same dark stone as the oldest houses in the village, granite perhaps, or some other rock that has weathered countless seasons while maintaining its essential strength. The stones are fitted together without mortar, held in place by nothing more than careful placement and the patient pressure of time. Each stone is different, some round and smooth, others angular and rough, all of them darkened by years of weather and wear, until they seem less like individual pieces and more like parts of a single living thing that has grown up from the earth itself. The arch of the bridge is gentle, rising just enough to allow the creek to flow freely beneath, while providing an easy passage for those crossing above. Snow has settled into every crevice between the stones, outlining each one with white tracery that makes the bridge look like an intricate drawing, rendered in charcoal and cream. The railings, if they ever existed, are long gone, leaving the bridge with a simple, unadorned beauty that speaks of pure function, elevated to art, through age and care, and the patient artistry of weather. You step onto the bridge, and immediately the sensation changes. The stones are solid beneath your feet, but they're also somehow alive with vibration. The almost imperceptible tremor that comes from water flowing steadily underneath, year after year, decade after decade. It's not movement you can see or even truly feel, but rather something your body knows at a cellular level. The way you might sense the heartbeat of someone sleeping beside you, even in the deepest quiet. From the center of the bridge, the view transforms your understanding of the village entirely. Looking upstream, you can see how the creek winds between the houses like a natural pathway, disappearing around a bend where ancient apple trees create a living tunnel. Even in their winter nakedness, the water moves with unhurried purpose, carrying small bits of debris, a fallen twig, a cluster of oak leaves still holding their brown color despite the season's change, tiny fragments of ice that form and melt and reform as the current carries them along. Downstream, the water continues its journey past the backs of houses where winter gardens sleep under snow blankets, where bare grapevines climb wooden trellises in patient preparation for spring's return, where here and there a thin line of smoke rises from a chimney to join the general softness of the snow-filled air. The creek seems to know exactly where it's going, following a path worn over centuries, accommodating every stone and root and bend with the fluid grace of something that has learned to work with the world rather than against it. The sound of the water from this vantage point becomes a complete symphony of liquid music. There's the steady bass note of the main current, punctuated by the higher voices of water splitting around stones, the gentle splash where the flow encounters a slight drop, the whispered conversation between water and the overhanging grasses that bow down to touch the surface. It's music without repetition, each moment bringing a slightly different combination of notes as the water's flow shifts with microscopic changes in depth and speed, and the position of debris caught temporarily against a stone before being swept along on the endless journey towards some distant sea. You place your hands on the snow-covered stones of the bridge's edge, feeling the cold bite gently through your palms, while the solid reality of the stone connects you to this place in the most direct way possible. The granite, for you can tell now that it is granite, holds a chill that goes deeper than the winter air, the kind of cold that speaks of thermal mass and geological time, of seasons beyond counting that have warmed and cooled this same stone until temperature has become just another weather pattern to be patiently endured. But there's warmth here too, subtle and surprising, where your hands rest, where countless other hands have rested over the years. The stone seems to hold just a hint of something warmer than the air around it. Perhaps it's your imagination, or perhaps stone remembers touch the way it remembers everything else, slowly, deeply, with the patience of something that measures time in centuries rather than minutes. The snow beneath your palms begins to compress slightly, creating a perfect impression of your presence, a temporary signature left in winter's guest book. Looking down into the water from this elevated position, you can see all the way to the creek bed in most places. The bottom is lined with stones of every size, from pebbles no larger than your thumbnail to boulders that create the deeper pools where the water swirls in lazy spirals. Some stones are perfectly smooth, polished by years of current into organic sculptures. Others are rough and angular, newer arrivals that haven't yet been fully shaped by their watery home. All of them are painted with the subtle colors that water brings out in stone, grays that shift toward blue and green and purple, browns that warm toward gold and amber, the occasional flash of white quartz or darker vein of some mineral whose name you don't know, but whose beauty needs no identification. Small fish move through this underwater landscape like living shadows, their movements so perfectly synchronized with the current that they seem to be swimming in place while the world flows past them. They're winter fish, hardy and patient, conserving energy while still maintaining the alert grace that keeps them positioned exactly where they want to be in the flowing water. Occasionally one will dart forward to investigate some morsel carried by the current, a movement so quick it's almost subliminal, there and gone before your eye can fully register what happened. The snowflakes that land on the water's surface create a constantly changing pattern of appearance and disappearance. Each flake touches down with the gentlest possible kiss, maintaining its crystalline structure for just a moment before becoming part of something larger, more fluid, beginning a new phase of its journey from sky to sea. Some flakes land in the calmer areas near the banks and linger a few seconds longer, spinning slowly in tiny eddies before succumbing to the water's liquid embrace. Others land directly in the current and vanish instantly, their brief existence as individual snow crystals ending in a transformation so smooth it seems less like dissolution and more like a planned metamorphosis. This constant exchange between snow and water, between the falling stillness and the flowing movement, creates a visual meditation that could hold your attention for hours. There's something mesmerizing about watching these two forms of the same essential substance meet and merge, about witnessing this gentle conversation between the sky's offering and the earth's ancient pathways. Each snowflake's brief moment of contact with the water seems to carry its own small story, where it formed in the high atmosphere, what winds carried it earthward, what unique combination of temperature and humidity shaped its particular crystalline architecture. You shift your position on the bridge, moving to where you can rest more comfortably against the stone rail while still maintaining your view of the water's endless performance. The change in angle reveals new aspects of the creek's character. The way the current creates different patterns of movement at various depths. How the water's surface tension holds and releases the reflected images of overhanging branches. The subtle ways that temperature differences in the air create tiny wisps of vapor that rise from the warmer water into the colder atmosphere above. The village, viewed from this water-centered perspective, reveals itself as a community built in conscious relationship with this creek. Every house, every garden, every pathway seems positioned with awareness of the water's presence and needs. The bridge itself is testament to this thoughtful coexistence. It's built high enough to never impede the creek's flow even in spring flood season, positioned where the banks are most stable, constructed with materials that will improve rather than deteriorate with age and weather. This is human engineering at its most humble and wise, working with natural forces rather than attempting to dominate them. The snow continues its patient accumulation on every surface, including the bridge itself. You can feel it settling on your shoulders, your hair, the tops of your shoes, each flake a tiny visitor that arrives without fanfare and settles in, as if this is exactly where it always intended to be. The weight is so minimal as to be almost imaginary, yet the cumulative effect creates a sensation of being slowly, gently claimed by winter itself, welcomed into the season's particular form of hospitality. Standing here on the bridge, you become aware that somewhere in the village below, despite the profound quiet that snow has brought to this place, there are stirrings of life beginning to emerge. The darkness is not yet ready to yield to dawn, but time moves forward with its own patient rhythm, and you find yourself drawn to follow one of these early threads of awakening. Your feet carry you slowly off the bridge, each step creating that soft compression in the snow that has become such a familiar sensation, and you begin to make your way down into the heart of the village itself. The cobblestone streets lie buried beneath their white covering, but your body seems to know the way instinctively, following the gentle curves and slopes that lead deeper into the collection of sleeping buildings. Here and there, a warm yellow glow begins to appear behind frost-etched windows, the first signs that the night is preparing to, gradually, gracefully, step aside for whatever the morning might bring. One particular light draws your attention, steady and welcoming, emanating from a building whose rounded doorway and wide windows speak of daily bread and comfort. As you approach, the scent reaches you first, threading its way through the cold air like a message written in warmth itself. It's the unmistakable aroma of yeast awakening, of flour being transformed, of ovens that have been coaxed back to life, while the rest of the world still dreams. The bakery stands before you, its windows glowing amber against the blue-white snow, and through the glass you can glimpse movement. The unhurried, methodical methodical preparations of someone who has risen before dawn, not from obligation, but from something deeper, something that speaks to the rhythm of nourishment and community. You move closer to one of the large windows, the snow crunching softly beneath your steps, and position yourself where you can observe this early morning ritual without intruding. Inside, the baker moves with the fluid economy of motion that comes from years of practice, each gesture flowing into the next with a kind of meditative precision. The interior is bathed in the golden light of hanging lamps, their glow reflecting off surfaces dusted with flour, off copper pans that gleam with use, off the warm brick of the great oven that dominates one wall like a benevolent hearth. The baker's hands work at a large wooden table, kneading dough that responds to the pressure and rhythm with a kind of organic compliance. You can almost feel the texture yourself, supple and yielding, slightly warm from the fermentation that has been occurring throughout the night. The repetitive motion of the kneading creates its own peaceful cadence, a gentle percussion that seems to harmonize with the soft settling of snow against the window glass. Steam rises in small, delicate curls from various bowls and containers scattered across the work surface, evidence of processes that began hours ago, of careful timing and patient nurturing that transforms simple ingredients into sustenance. The baker pauses occasionally to check the consistency of different batches of dough, pressing gently with fingertips that can read the readiness of the mixture through touch alone. There's something deeply soothing about witnessing this ancient dance between human skill and natural process. This daily renewal of one of life's most fundamental acts. The warmth from inside the bakery reaches you, even through the glass, a subtle radiation that touches your face and creates a pleasant contrast to the cool kiss of snowflakes that continue their gentle descent around you. Your breath forms small clouds in the cold air, but rather than feeling chilled, you're enveloped in a cocoon of contentment, watching the scene unfold with the unhurried pleasure of someone who has nowhere else to be. Nothing else that demands attention in this suspended moment between night and morning. Behind the baker, shelves line the walls, waiting to receive the day's offerings. Some hold the remnants of yesterday's baking, a few loaves wrapped in linen, jars of preserves that catch the lamplight like captured amber, ceramic crocks that promise butter and cream. The entire space speaks of abundance that comes not from excess, but from careful attention to craft, from the daily miracle of transformation that turns grain into golden crusts and tender crumb. You notice the way the baker occasionally glances toward the window where you stand, not with alarm or curiosity, but with the kind of gentle acknowledgement that suggests your presence is not unexpected. In a village this size, wrapped in snow this deep, perhaps there's an understanding that wanderers might appear at any hour, drawn by warmth and the promise of human connection. The baker returns to the work with a small smile that you glimpse in profile, hand-shaping portions of dough into rounds that will become the day's first batch of bread. The oven door swings open with a soft creak, revealing the glowing interior where coals have been burning steadily through the night. The heat that emerges creates a brief shimmer in the air, and you can almost taste the anticipation of crusts browning, of interiors becoming light and airy, of the moment when the bakery will fill completely with the aroma that already perfumes the air around you. The baker slides wooden paddles beneath waiting loaves, movements confident and smooth, then transfers them into the oven's embrace where the real transformation will occur. As the oven door closes again, sealing in the heat and the promise, you become aware of other sounds beginning to layer themselves into the morning's composition. Somewhere in the distance, a church bell chimes the hour with deep, resonant notes that seem to hang in the still air longer than usual, as if the snow catches and holds even sound waves before allowing them to fade. From another direction comes the soft whinny of a horse, probably in the stable behind the inn, and the muffled response of human voices, other early risers beginning their own daily rituals. The snow continues its patient work, adding to the accumulation on windowsills, on the bakery's peaked roof, on the wooden sign that hangs beside the door and creaks almost inaudibly in the minimal breeze. Each flake that lands creates its own tiny moment of arrival and settling, and watching them through the bakery's warm light, you're struck by how each one seems to carry its own small intention, its own contribution to the larger transformation happening to the village. Inside, the baker has moved on to other preparations, measuring flour into bowls, cracking eggs whose shells pile up in neat fragments, pouring milk that steams slightly in the cool air. Every action carries the weight of ritual, of processes refined through repetition, until they become a kind of prayer made manifest in physical motion. The measuring cup scrapes against the flour bin, with a sound like sand shifting, and the whisk clicking against the bowl creates a rhythm that feels ancient and reassuring. You shift your weight slightly, snow compressing beneath your feet, with that satisfying compression that has become such a familiar companion on this journey through the village. The movement brings you a slightly different view through the window, and you can now see a corner where rising loaves sit beneath damp towels, growing slowly in the warmth, patient as the snow itself in their willingness to follow natural rhythms rather than rushing toward completion. The baker glances up again, catching sight of you through the window, and this time raises one flour-dusted hand in a gentle wave of greeting. The gesture is so natural, so welcoming, that it feels like an invitation to remain as long as you wish, to take whatever comfort you might find in observing this early morning devotion to craft and nourishment. You raise your own hand in response, feeling the snow that has accumulated on your glove shift slightly with the movement, and the baker's smile widens before attention returns to the work at hand. There's something profoundly moving about this exchange, wordless, brief, but carrying within it an acknowledgement of shared humanity, of the simple pleasure that comes from witnessing dedication and skill. The warmth you feel has nothing to do with temperature, and everything to do with connection, with being seen and welcomed, even as a stranger at a window, in the deep hours before dawn. The first batch of bread will be ready soon. You can sense it in the way the baker begins to prepare the paddles again, in the subtle change in the quality of the light coming from around the oven door's edges. The anticipation builds slowly, like the snow itself, not rushing, not demanding attention, but accumulating into something that will soon reach a perfect moment of readiness. You settle more comfortably into your position, content to wait and watch as this small miracle of transformation approaches completion, surrounded by the gentle benediction of falling snow and the steady, comforting presence of human skill applied with love to the ancient art of making bread. The warmth of the bakery begins to fade as you find yourself drawn upward, as if carried by the same invisible currents that guide the snowflakes in their patient descent. Your awareness lifts beyond the glowing windows and cobblestone streets, rising like breath in cold air until you hover just above the village roof tines. Here, in this elevated realm between earth and sky, an entirely different story unfolds, one written in accumulation and silence, in the slow artistry of winter, claiming each surface with methodical grace. From this vantage point, the village spreads below you like a collection of sleeping creatures, each building unique in its reception of the snow's quiet offering. The steep-pitched roof of the old church catches flakes along its weathered shingles, creating delicate ridges where each wooden edge provides a tiny shelf for snow to gather. You can see how the flakes don't simply land and stay. They tumble and shift, finding the angles where they can rest most securely, building microscopic conversations between ice crystal and rough wood grain. The manor house at the village edge presents its slate tiles like a vast gray canvas, each rectangular piece outlined now in the finest white piping, as snow traces every joint and seam. The geometric precision creates an intricate pattern that shifts and softens even as you watch, the sharp lines of human construction gradually yielding to winter's preference for curves and drifts. A chimney releases a thin column of smoke that dissipates quickly in the falling snow, and where the warm air meets the cold tiles, you notice how the snow melts in a perfect circle before refreezing into a delicate rim of crystal. The thatched cottage roofs tell different stories entirely. Their bundled straw creating countless tiny pockets and valleys where snow can nestle deep and stay protected from any breeze. These rooftops drink in the snowfall like thirsty ground, each strand of thatch becoming outlined in white until the entire surface resembles an enormous feather, soft and impossibly detailed. Steam escapes through the thatch itself in some places, creating mysterious wisps that speak of warm hearths and evening meals being prepared below. You become aware of the profound silence that exists at this height, broken only by the nearly inaudible whisper of millions of snowflakes meeting their destinations. It's not truly silence. Rather, it's sound so gentle that it exists at the very edge of perception, like the collective sigh of the winter sky settling into evening. Your position here feels suspended, weightless, as if you've become part of the snowfall itself, moving with the same unhurried purpose as each descending crystal. The metal roof of the blacksmith's workshop creates its own unique reception. The iron surface, still holding the day's residual warmth, causes the first snowflakes to kiss and vanish instantly, leaving dark patches that gradually shrink as the metal cools. But along the edges and corners, where the temperature has dropped first, snow begins to establish small footholds that grow into delicate white margins, framing the dark center. You watch this slow negotiation between heat and cold, seeing how winter doesn't conquer so much as it patiently waits for invitation. The bakery roof, directly below where your evening began, shows evidence of the oven's warmth in the pattern of snow accumulation. Above where the kitchen sits, the snow remains thinner, melting slightly and refreezing into a subtle glaze. But at the roof's edges, proper snow gathers thickly, creating a frame of white that makes the warmer center even more apparent. It's like looking at a map of human activity, written in snow's absence and presence. A story told by temperature and time. Clay tiles on the merchant's house provide yet another texture for winter's canvas. Their curved surfaces create natural channels where snow can gather and slide, forming tiny avalanches that collect in the gutters. But in the protective curves between tiles, perfect little drifts accumulate, each one a miniature landscape of hills and valleys no larger than your thumb. The repetitive pattern of these small accumulations creates a rhythm across the entire roof surface, like written music, made visible. Your elevated perspective reveals how the falling snow has its own subtle patterns and preferences. Flakes don't fall with uniform randomness. Instead, they follow invisible air currents that create gentle swirls and concentrations. Above the windward side of buildings, fewer flakes seem to land, while the leeward slopes collect extra deposits carried by the moving air. This creates a topography of accumulation that speaks of wind patterns and atmospheric currents normally invisible to earthbound observation. The inn's complex roofline, with its multiple levels and dormers, becomes a study in architectural geometry translated into snow sculpture. Each angle creates its own microclimate for accumulation. Sharp corners that slice through falling flakes, leaving precise edges in the snow cover, while gentle slopes encourage smooth, even blankets that conform to every curve and pitch. The dormer windows create small, protected alcoves where snow piles especially deep, like white cushions tucked into architectural corners. Temperature variations across different roof materials become clearly visible from this height. Wooden shingles, better insulated and naturally warmer than slate or metal, show more even snow coverage. Stone surfaces, which absorb the day's pale sunlight and now release it slowly, create patches where snow accumulates differently, sometimes melting and refreezing into intricate ice patterns that catch the faint light from windows below. The rhythm of accumulation has its own hypnotic quality that becomes apparent only from sustained observation. What appears static from ground level reveals itself as constant, subtle motion when viewed from above. Snow doesn't simply land and stay. It arrives, settles, shifts slightly as new flakes pile on top, compresses under its own gentle weight, and occasionally redistributes when small portions slide to new positions. This ongoing micro-choreography creates a living landscape that reshapes itself continuously while appearing perfectly still. gutters and downspouts become linear galleries where snow creates its own artistic installations. The metal channels, slightly warmer than the surrounding roof surfaces, allow snow to accumulate in perfectly straight lines that contrast beautifully with the organic curves and drifts elsewhere, where gutters meet downspouts. Small architectural waterfalls of snow form, frozen in the moment of their descent, creating sculptural elements that no artist could plan, but only winter could provide. The village chapel, with its simple peaked roof and modest bell tower, receives snow like an offering. The steep pitch allows some accumulation to slide away naturally, but along the ridge line and around the small bell housing, snow builds into formations that emphasize the building's sacred geometry. The cross at the roof's peak becomes outlined in white, transformed into a beacon of peaceful presence that seems to anchor the entire village beneath its quiet blessing. From this elevated sanctuary above the rooftops, you begin to perceive how each building's response to snowfall reflects something essential about its character and purpose. Working buildings, the mill, the blacksmith shop, the bakery, show signs of internal warmth and activity in their snow patterns. Residential homes display the more gentle, even accumulation that speaks of moderate heating and domestic rhythms. Abandoned or little-used structures collect snow uniformly, without the telltale variations that indicate human presence and activity within. The interplay between artificial light escaping from windows and the natural luminescence of snow creates a subtle illumination that exists nowhere else in nature. Window light diffused through falling snow and reflected off white surfaces produces a glow that's neither warm yellow nor cool white, but something entirely unique, a luminosity that seems to emerge from the snow itself rather than from any external source. This gentle radiance makes every roof surface visible despite the evening darkness, creating a dreamscape where ordinary buildings become monuments to winter's transformative power. Your awareness settles into this elevated perspective with deep contentment, watching the endless, patient process by which winter claims each surface, each angle, each architectural detail. The rooftops below you have become canvases for the season's artistry, and you find yourself perfectly positioned to witness this slow masterpiece unfold, flake by flake, moment by quiet moment, as the village disappears beneath winter's soft and inexorable benediction. From your elevated vantage point, your gaze naturally draws downward, following the gentle slope of snow-laden rooftops as they descend toward the heart of the village. There, nestled between the protective embrace of homes and shops, lies the village square, a circular clearing that serves as the community's gentle heartbeat. Tonight, under winter's careful ministrations, this gathering place has transformed into something altogether different, a basin of profound quietude, where the day's footsteps have been erased and tomorrow's activities exist only as whispered possibilities. The square spreads before you like an open palm, its cobblestones buried beneath a smooth expanse of pristine snow that catches and holds the muted luminescence filtering through the cloud-heavy sky. You can sense the hidden geometry beneath, the careful arrangement of stones that have supported countless market days, festival celebrations, and daily encounters between neighbors. But now, that familiar architecture sleeps under winter's careful stewardship, its edges softened, its patterns unified into a single canvas of unblemished white. At the square's center stands the old stone fountain, its summer music silenced by winter's touch. The water that once danced and sparkled in warmer months now rests in crystalline stillness, its surface glazed with a thin layer of ice that reflects the subtle variations in the night sky above. Snow has gathered along the fountain's curved rim like a downy scarf, transforming the utilitarian structure into something more sculptural, more dreamlike. The carved details of its stone basin, the weathered faces of cherubs, the intertwining vines that speak of spring's abundance, all lie hidden beneath winter's generous covering, creating mysterious shapes and shadows that invite quiet contemplation. Your breathing synchronizes with the square's deep stillness as you observe how completely the season has claimed this space. The wooden benches that normally invite conversation and rest have become gentle mounds, their familiar angles suggested rather than defined by the snow's careful accumulation. You can almost feel the ghost of summer afternoons in their hidden forms. Elderly residents sharing stories in the warming sun, children pausing between games to catch their breath, young couples stealing moments of privacy in the early evening light. All of these memories lie dormant now, preserved beneath winter's protective silence like pressed flowers in an ancient book. The buildings that border the square stand like patient sentinels, their ground floor windows glowing with the faintest suggestion of warmth from within. The bakery, the small general store, the inn with its heavy wooden door, each structure contributes to the square's sense of enclosure and protection. Their facades, painted in colors that speak of brighter seasons, have been muted by winter's touch, their blues and yellows and reds reduced to gentle suggestions beneath the accumulating snow. But there's something deeply comforting about this softening, as if the entire square has been tucked beneath a vast, protective blanket. You notice how the snow continues to fall with such measured consistency, each flake adding its tiny contribution to the growing silence. Some settle directly onto the square's open expanse, disappearing into the collective white with barely a whisper. Others catch briefly on the fountain's edge or drift against the buried benches, building small sculptures of accumulated moments. The air carries the falling snow in lazy spirals, creating momentary patterns that dissolve and reform with each gentle current, each barely perceptible shift in the night's breathing. The quietude here feels different from the intimate hush of snow-covered rooftops or the personal stillness of shuttered windows. This is a communal silence, a shared peace that speaks to the square's role as a gathering place. Even in its emptiness, perhaps especially in its emptiness, the space holds the memory of connection, of community, of the countless small interactions that weave neighbors into something larger than themselves. Tonight, that social energy rests, sleeping beneath winter's careful attention, like seeds waiting for spring's call. Your awareness settles more deeply into the square's particular rhythm, so different from the domestic tranquility of the surrounding home. conversation between sky and earth. Each flake travels its full journey from cloud to cobblestone, carrying with it the night's stories and the sky's dreams. You find yourself following individual crystals in their descent, watching how they dance and drift, how they seem to pause and consider before choosing their final resting place. The fountain draws your attention once more, its transformation so complete that it seems like a different entity altogether. Water, that most fluid and changeable of elements, has surrendered to winter's more solid vision. Yet there's nothing harsh about this transition. The ice that caps the basin catches occasional glimmers of light from the surrounding windows, creating subtle flashes that appear and disappear like gentle thoughts crossing a peaceful mind. Snow continues to accumulate along the fountain's edges, building small drifts that soften every angle, every transition between stone and sky. You realize you can sense the temperature of this space, how the open air of the square carries a different quality of cold than the protected spaces between buildings. It's a clean, honest cold that speaks of vast skies and unlimited space, yet it's gentled by the surrounding structures that break any harsh winds and create pockets of relative calm. The snow that falls here settles with a particular quality, less influenced by the micro-weathers created by overhangs and walls, more directly connected to winter's broader intentions. The circular nature of the square becomes more apparent as you observe how the snow accumulates. There's something almost ceremonial about this geometry, the way the white expanse spreads outward from the fountain at its center, the way the surrounding buildings create a natural amphitheater for winter's quiet performance. You can imagine how this space might look from directly above. A perfect circle of peace carved into the village's more complex arrangement of streets and structures. A breathing space where the community's more intricate patterns pause and simplify. Time seems to move differently here in the square's openness, without the intimate details of windows and doorways to mark passing moments, without the varied textures of different rooftops to catch the eye. Awareness expands and relaxes into a broader rhythm. Minutes stretch and deepen, each one filled with the simple continuity of falling snow, the gradual accumulation of silence, the slow deepening of winter's influence. You find your own sense of time adjusting to this more expansive pace, your breathing slowing to match the square's unhurried transformation. The edges of the square, where cobblestones meet the thresholds of shops and homes, create subtle transitions between the public openness of the central space and the more private energies of the surrounding buildings. Snow drifts slightly differently in these border areas, influenced by the protection of doorways and the warmth that seeps almost imperceptibly from heated interiors. These microclimates add texture to the square's overall uniformity, creating gentle variations in how winter's influence manifests. Thicker accumulations in some corners, thinner coverings where warmth from within creates almost invisible interference with the snow's settling patterns. Your perspective from above allows you to appreciate the square as both empty stage and complete performance. Without human activity to animate the space, winter itself becomes the primary actor, its slow choreography playing out across the circular expanse with infinite patience and precision. Every falling flake contributes to this performance. Every small drift and accumulation adds another note to winter's quiet symphony. The square has become a meditation on the beauty of emptiness, the profound peace that can exist in spaces temporarily freed from their usual purposes. The surrounding buildings seem to lean slightly inward, their snow-softened facades creating a sense of protection and containment that makes the square feel like a natural sanctuary. This is enhanced by the way their windows glow with subdued warmth, suggesting the life that continues within while respecting the outer world's need for rest. The contrast between inner activity and outer stillness creates a perfect balance, a reminder that peace and vitality can coexist when each honors the other's necessary rhythms. As you absorb the square's particular brand of tranquility, you begin to understand how this space serves as the village's emotional center, even in its emptiness. Perhaps especially in its emptiness. The quietude here feels generous, welcoming, ready to embrace whatever activities tomorrow might bring while offering tonight's gift of complete rest. The snow continues its patient work, adding layer upon layer to winter's masterpiece, transforming a place of gathering into a sanctuary of solitude, where even silence can feel like the most perfect form of community. This sanctuary of solitude becomes a threshold now, its edges dissolving into the gentle pathways that wind away from the village center and into the embracing arms of the winter forest. You find yourself drawn toward these quieter roads, where cobblestones give way to packed earth beneath the snow, where the last street lamp casts its amber glow just far enough to illuminate the beginning of a trail that curves away into deeper darkness. The transition happens so gradually, you barely notice it. One moment you're still within the village's protective circle, and the next you're stepping onto a path that belongs entirely to the woods. The forest in winter reveals itself differently than in any other season. Without the dense canopy of leaves overhead, the bare branches create an intricate lacework against the sky, allowing the falling snow to filter down through multiple layers of wood and air. Each flake catches briefly on a twig here, a branch there, creating tiny accumulations that shift and resettle with each gentle breath of wind. The path ahead disappears into shadows that seem welcoming rather than mysterious, as if the darkness itself is simply another form of the village's enveloping quiet. Your footsteps change their rhythm as they encounter the softer ground of the forest floor, where village stones created a sharp, clean sound. Hear your feet sink slightly with each step, creating a muffled whisper that seems to harmonize with the settling snow around you. The trees stand like patient guardians on either side of the path, their trunks showing dark against the white accumulation at their base. Some lean slightly toward the trail, creating natural archways overhead, while others stand straight and tall, their bark catching occasional glints of reflected light from the snow. The air here carries different scents than the village center. Pine needles release their sharply clean fragrance when disturbed by falling snow, mixing with the earthier crisp neutrality of winter air. There's something about forest air and snowfall that feels almost medicinal in its purity, as if each breath carries not just oxygen, but some essential quality of rest itself. The temperature feels a degree or two cooler here, but not uncomfortably so. Rather like stepping into a naturally air-conditioned space where your body can truly relax and release the subtle tensions of the day. The path curves gently to the right, following what must be the natural contours of the land. And as you round this soft bend, the village lights fade from view entirely. Now there is only the path ahead, visible as a lighter ribbon winding between the darker shapes of trees, and the soft downward drift of snow creating the only movement in this still world. The quiet here has a different quality than the village quiet, deeper somehow, as if the trees themselves are absorbing sound and transforming it into something softer, more nurturing. A fallen log lies across a small clearing to your left, its surface cushioned with a perfect accumulation of snow that has remained undisturbed throughout the day. The log creates a natural bench, and something about its placement suggests countless other evening wanderers have discovered this same resting spot over the years. The snow on its surface is smooth and even, unmarked by footprints or disturbance, creating a pristine white surface that catches what little light filters down through the branches above. As you continue along the path, the forest begins to reveal its own subtle geography. Here, a gentle depression, where water might gather in warmer seasons, now filled with a slightly deeper accumulation of snow that creates a bowl of white between the trees. There, a small rise where the path climbs almost imperceptibly, offering a slightly different perspective on the surrounding woodland. The trail itself shows the wisdom of countless footsteps over many seasons. It follows the easiest route through the trees, avoiding the steepest slopes and the densest growth, creating a natural rhythm of walking that seems to match the relaxed beating of a resting heart. The branches overhead create their own intricate patterns, some forming natural cathedral arches where larger trees lean toward each other, others spreading in graceful fan shapes that catch and hold the snow in artistic arrangements. Every few steps reveals a new composition of trunk and branch and accumulated white, as if the forest has arranged itself into a gallery of winter sculptures, each piece carefully positioned to create the maximum sense of peace and visual harmony. You notice how the snow continues to fall here just as steadily as it did in the village, but somehow the flakes seem larger, more leisurely in their descent. Perhaps it's the protection of the trees that allows each crystal to develop more fully as it falls. Or perhaps it's simply the way forest air moves more gently than the open spaces of village streets. Whatever the reason, the snowfall here feels even more hypnotic, each flake visible for longer as it drifts down through the layers of branches, creating vertical streams of white against the darker background of wood and shadow. The path splits ahead, one branch continuing straight, while another curves more sharply to the left, disappearing behind a cluster of evergreens whose branches remain full and dark even in winter. Both routes look equally inviting, equally peaceful, and you realize that in a place like this, the destination matters far less than itself. The very act of moving slowly through this snowy cathedral creates its own form of meditation, each step a small act of participation in the forest's ancient rhythm of rest and renewal. You choose the left path almost without thinking, drawn perhaps by the way the evergreens create a more enclosed feeling, like walking through a natural tunnel made of living walls. These trees release their own distinctive fragrance when brushed by the falling snow, a deep, resinous scent that speaks of roots reaching deep into dark earth and of branches that remain green even when the world around them sleeps. The path here becomes even softer underfoot, cushioned by years of fallen needles that create a natural carpet beneath the fresh snow. The tunnel effect of the evergreens creates its own acoustic environment, where even the gentle sound of snowfall becomes muffled and intimate. Your breathing seems louder here, but not disturbingly so, rather like the comfortable awareness of your own heartbeat when lying in bed in perfect quiet. The rhythm of walking, breathing, and gentle snowfall begins to synchronize into something that feels less like movement and more like a form of horizontal sleep, where you remain upright and mobile while achieving the same deep relaxation that usually comes only with lying down. Emerging from the evergreen tunnel, the path opens into a wider space, where deciduous trees create a more open canopy, allowing more snow to fall directly onto the trail. Here, the white accumulation is deeper, creating soft mounds and gentle undulations that transform walking into something closer to floating. Your feet sink slightly with each step, creating temporary impressions that immediately begin to fill again with fresh snow, as if the path is erasing your passage even as you make it, ensuring that each person who walks here experiences the same pristine solitude. The forest around you shows signs of its sleeping wildlife, a small depression in the snow where something might have rested, a few scattered seeds dropped by birds invisible in the snowy branches above, the crisscrossing tracks of small creatures whose nighttime activities remain mysterious but somehow comforting. These subtle evidences of other life create a sense of gentle companionship rather than intrusion, as if the forest community extends its welcome to include quiet human visitors like yourself. The path continues to wind deeper into the woods, but you begin to notice that your awareness of distance and time is shifting. Near the building's base, you notice how the snow has drifted against the foundation stones in perfect curves, sculpted by winds that follow the same patterns here, year after year. These drifts create natural seats and resting places, as if the winter itself has arranged furniture around the mill for those who come to sit and watch and listen. The stones themselves, laid without mortar in the old way, have gaps between them that provide homes for small creatures. You can see the tiny openings, mostly filled with snow now, where mice and voles make their winter nests. The rhythm of the wheel begins to synchronize with your own breathing, or perhaps your breathing adjusts itself to match the wheel's steady pace. Either way, you find yourself settling into a deeper level of rest, your body temperature finding its perfect balance with the cold air, your muscles releasing tensions you hadn't even noticed you were carrying. The wheel turns, the water flows, hurried certainty as all these natural processes. From somewhere inside the mill comes an occasional sound, not the grinding of active machinery, but the small settling noises of a building at rest. A beam creaks as the temperature changes. Something skitters briefly across the wooden floor, perhaps a mouse or a squirrel that has found its way inside for the winter. These sounds don't disturb the peace, but rather deepen it. Reminders that even in its sleeping state, the mill remains alive. A working building resting between seasons, gathering its strength for the busy months ahead when farmers will once again bring their grain to be ground, and the interior will fill with dust and purpose and human voices. The wheel's shadow, diffused and soft in the snowy light, moves across the ground in a slow arc that marks time, more gently than any clock. You watch this shadow sweep over the snow-covered stones, over tufts of grass that poke through in sheltered spots, over the frozen edges of puddles left from yesterday's brief thaw. The shadow's movement creates the only change in this otherwise perfectly still scene. A reminder that even in winter's deepest quiet, the world continues its ancient rotations and revolutions, all of them as steady and reliable as this mill wheel's turning. The cold air carries sounds from far away, the distant call of a crow, the crack of a tree branch, heavy with snow, the whisper of wind moving through the bare branches of the woods that surround this small clearing. But these sounds feel like they belong to a different world, a more hurried place beyond the mill's immediate sphere of influence. Here, in this pocket of steady rhythm and patient turning, time moves differently, measured not by minutes or hours, but by the wheel's revolutions, by the gradual accumulation of snow, by the slow brightening and dimming of the winter, light as clouds move across the hidden sun. The wheel continues its ancient conversation with water and time, and you find yourself becoming part of this dialogue, your own breathing beginning to match the steady pulse of the mechanism. The snow continues to fall, each flake finding its designated place in the growing accumulation around the mill's foundation, along the wooden walkways, settling into the grooves of the wheel's spokes. The world beyond grows quieter with each passing hour, as if the snow is not just covering surfaces, but muffling the very possibility of urgency, wrapping the night in layers of soft silence. Hours pass, though you lose track of their passage in this place where time moves differently. The darkness gradually begins to shift, so slowly that at first you're not certain whether you're imagining it. But there, at the edges of the eastern horizon, barely visible through the gaps between the snow-laden pine boughs, the faintest suggestion of change begins to emerge. Not light, not yet, but perhaps the memory of light, a softening of the absolute darkness that has held the world in its gentle grip. The water wheel turns, steady as a heartbeat, and with each revolution, something subtle shifts in the quality of the air around you. The snow continues to fall, but the flakes seem different now, catching occasional glints of something that might be the beginning of dawn, each crystal carrying within it the promise of the light to come. The mill's wooden walls creak softly in the cold, the sound mixing with the splash and drip of water, creating a symphony so gentle it seems to emerge from the earth itself. You notice that your breath creates small clouds in the frigid air, each exhalation a tiny ghost that appears and dissolves, marking the rhythm of your presence in this quiet place. The cold touches your cheeks with fingers so gentle they feel almost warm, a sensation that seems to connect you to the snow-covered world around you, making you part of its winter dream. The scent of snow mingles with the woody dampness of the mill, creating an atmosphere that feels both ancient and eternally new. The eastern sky begins to blush with the faintest hint of color, a rose gold whisper that barely distinguishes itself from the gray of night. This subtle change transforms everything around the mill, though so gradually that each moment feels like a natural continuation of the last. The falling snow catches this early light, each flake becoming a tiny messenger, carrying news of the approaching dawn. The water wheel continues its patient turning, now revealed in slightly greater detail as the darkness slowly retreats. Tree branches heavy with snow begin to emerge from the shadows, like careful brushstrokes appearing on canvas. The pines surrounding the clearing show themselves branch by branch, needle cluster by needle cluster, their snow-covered forms creating shapes so beautiful they seem crafted by an artist's hand. The ground around the mill reveals itself as a smooth expanse of white, unmarked except for the gentle depressions where snow has settled into natural hollows, creating a landscape that feels sculpted by dreams. The water flowing beneath the wheel becomes more visible as the light grows, revealing how it moves in patterns that seem to dance with the wheel's rotation. Small eddies and currents catch the early light, creating tiny sparkles that appear and vanish like fleeting thoughts. The sound of the water seems to change with the light, becoming richer, more musical, as if dawn is tuning an instrument that has been playing in darkness. Your body has found a comfortable position against the mill's wall, and you realize you've been here so long that you feel perfectly settled, as if you've become part of the structure itself. The wooden planks beneath you have absorbed your warmth, and in return, they offer a solid, reassuring presence. The cold air fills your lungs with each breath, so clean and pure it seems to clear away everything unnecessary, leaving only this moment, this place, this gentle awakening of the world. The light continues to grow, painting the snow-covered landscape in shades of pearl and silver. Individual snowflakes become more distinct as they fall, each one visible for a brief moment before joining the accumulated white that covers every surface. The mill wheel turns through this light snow, water droplets from its paddles, catching the early illumination and falling like tiny stars back into the stream below. A bird calls somewhere in the distance, a clear note that carries perfectly through the still air. The sound seems to announce the approaching day to the sleeping world, though it does so quietly, respectfully, as if understanding that this dawn deserves a gentle introduction. Other birds begin to answer, their calls weaving together into a soft chorus that complements the steady rhythm of the turning wheel. The eastern horizon shows more color now, bands of soft pink and gold that stretch across the sky, like watercolors bleeding into wet paper. This light touches the tops of the surrounding pine trees, highlighting the snow that rests on their highest branches. The illumination moves slowly downward, revealing the forest bit by bit, tree by tree, as if dawn is carefully unveiling a masterpiece. The mill itself begins to show more detail in the growing light, peacefully, in the snow's gentle embrace, in dawn's quiet kiss, in winter's perfect dream, turning, falling, glowing, breathing, resting, being, snow, light, peace. And so the story gently fades like stars at dawn. Sleep well, dear listener. I'll be here whenever you